everybody.
Hey. It does the countdown on my side, too.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering that because I'm always like 3, 2.
I know.
We're playing a part of Dr. McCurdy's interview with Andrew Huberman that he did a couple weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. It's like almost 3 hours long, but we're going to do it in like segments.
Yeah.
Just so everybody else can see it. I still hadn't watched it. Even when I was at Champs and met Dr. McCurdy, I was like, I still hadn't watched your interview yet.
I'm so glad you got to meet him. That's so cool.
He is such a cool guy.
I'm just going to share it.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to share. Don't mind us, folks. We're just sharing over here.
My goodness. Here we go. Oh, lovely.
What?
Huh. Let me see.
Hey, Jan.
Hey, Jen. I think that... Hold on. I'm not going to say anything yet. Okay, never mind. Never mind. It's a false alarm. False alarm. You never know when you're going to be restricted these days on Facebook.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Well, yeah. It seems like it happens like every time I get on here. Okay.
Can you still add the music?
Yeah.
The background music?
Yeah, let's try that. I forgot about that.
I thought it was pretty damn cool that you could do that.
There we go.
Does it have, it's got multiple options for it?
Yeah. This is, let's see what this one is. That's the same one, dude. It's kind of nice. Let's see what this one is. Same one. Maybe if I give it a second.
That sounds like a video game one.
Yeah, it does. Let's see. This one's called Lounge.
So far, I like the second one that you played.
Yeah, I do too. Let's go back to that one. Was it this one?
No. Am I live on Instagram?
Oh, I need to go check that. Oh. No. Let me see if I can go for my other one. No, you're not live on Instagram.
I wonder. Oh, because I need to get the stream key. Okay, let me try to remember how I did it.
Oh my God, dude, it's 100 degrees outside. Just popped up on my thing.
It's hot here too.
Says it feels like 110 degrees outside. Forget that.
But at nighttime, dude, you could totally tell fall is in the air.
Yeah. It's right around the corner. Best time of year. Hey, Renee. Hey, J-Lo.
I'm wondering if I was supposed to put the stream key in before going live.
You might have had to, but is that what you did last time?
Yeah. It didn't know.
That sucks. I wonder. I was like wondering if you go out and then come back in, but I don't know if it's because like if we've already went live, you know,
Right.
if it would work. I think this one's like this is a couple weeks old, Lee. But I know Huberman did one last year on Kratom. Oh, I always forget I can do this. Yeah, if anybody hasn't left their comment on the Toledo ban, go to my profile. It's on my profile or Renee's profile. There's a link to it. Hopefully, I know that there's been a couple of people that's had a few problems trying to leave comments. I feel like it's just the site that they're using sucks.
Yeah, I had to use another email account.
This music sounds kind of crazy.
I don't know if I'm streaming or not.
Let me see. I'm going to check again. No. So I guess you had to do the stream key thing before you go live.
Yeah, I think so.
Mother effing.
I might still leave and come and try to come back, see if that works.
Yeah, try that. We'll wait. We'll hang out and wait. Yeah, Huberman is very well respected.
Okay, I'll be back.
Okay. All right, she's going to try and go back out. Yeah, I feel this. I keep on. Sorry. I forget that I can put those up. Yeah, I feel like a lot of sites, I don't know if it's like intentional or not, but I know a lot of sites just have really shitty, whoever's building the websites for the places are like, need a better job. Either they need a better job or, some more training type of thing. It's like if your job is to make websites, for a city or whatever, county, at least you could do is do it a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, like the email confirmations, I don't know. Yeah, the email confirmations. Go into spam folder and then the short. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but the whole email confirmation thing, I know I've had 2 people say that it looks, I guess it comes back saying it's malicious or something, and I'm trying to see a screenshot. It's frustrating when you're trying to do something like that and you just can't get it done, It's like nothing more to me there's nothing more frustrating than technical difficulties. You know what I mean? Especially when you just really want to do it and like my husband, he's really good at just sitting around and like taking hours to fix something, but I don't have the patience to do that.
It shows that it's streaming. Can you go look, please?
Yeah, it showed. Okay, hold on. It shows that it is on the restream, but it's not on your profile. Let me try it on this one too. Dude, that sucks. So when you did it last time to Instagram, you did the stream key beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all I see is your YouTube.
On the restream?
In real life.
Oh.
But on Restream, I see both.
I know, it shows the little stream thing. It says streaming. So I don't know if it's streaming on Instagram or not.
I just hate that.
Hey, Renee. Yeah, the Ohio hearing is supposed to be tomorrow. Do you know if anybody's going, Renee?
I hope so. I guess it's just not going to go to freaking Instagram, dude.
If I'm live on Instagram, can you guys let me know? Oh, okay. Okay, Renee.
Nice. Yeah, I did see Scars made a post saying if anybody needed, wanted to carpool, I guess. Which is cool. Dude, this music's pretty cool. All right, okay. I'm going to go ahead and start the interview here.
Okay.
Let's see. Share screen.
Where we discuss science and science-based tools for everyday life. I'm Andrew Huberman, and I'm a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford School of Medicine. My guest today is Dr. Chris McCurdy. Dr. Chris McCurdy is a professor of medicinal chemistry at the University of Florida, where he directs research on natural products and their pharmacologic effects, most recently the plant-derived compound kratom, which is readily sold in the US and around the world and is now used by tens of millions of people daily, and those numbers are increasing fast. Dr. McCurdy's research focuses on understanding how kratom interacts with our nervous system and affects our physiology and behavior. He also studies its potential for addiction. During today's episode, we discuss the complex effects of kratom and its relationship to the opioid system. Dr. McCurdy explains how kratom's active compounds work in the brain, why it shares certain similarities to opioid drugs, and critically, how kratom products available in the US and elsewhere are largely derivatives and isolates of the kratom leaf, which is very different in terms of the effects it produces when compared to the traditional leaf products. And unfortunately, that has confused and in many cases harmed consumers. So today you'll learn about kratom's effects at different doses and when it's sourced in different ways. You'll learn about how it can be a stimulant, how it can increase focus, how it can be a painkiller, how it can increase euphoria, but also its strong potential for addiction. You'll also learn what is known about kratom in terms of its ability to help people transition off traditional opioid drugs. It has been shown to be effective for that. However, we are also going to explain the potential harms of kratom, in particular in young people whose brains are still developing and in people that don't have a prior opioid addiction. Our discussion about kratom also opens up a broader discussion about other plant alkaloids that have medicinal properties, including those found in things like cocoa and 100% chocolate. And we discuss the incredible history of soft drinks like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, 7-Up, and Dr. Pepper, which, believe it or not, were originally developed as pharmacologic tools before becoming the ultra-popular beverages that we're familiar with today. So I realize many people have heard about kratom, but also many of you perhaps have not. What everyone should know, however, is that kratom products are pretty much everywhere now. You can find them in supermarkets, convenience stores, online, and they're sold under the pretense of having very specific effects related to energy, pain management, or mood. But by the end of today's episode, you'll have a thorough understanding of how this plant compound actually works. Yes, its potential effects, but also its serious risks. Before we begin, I'd like to emphasize that this podcast is separate from my teaching and research roles at Stanford. It is, however, part of my desire and effort to bring zero cost to consumer information about science and science-related tools to the general public. In keeping with that theme, today's episode does include sponsors. And now for my discussion with Dr. Chris McCurdy. Dr. Chris McCurdy, welcome.
Actors, we can make you believe we know what we're doing, when in fact, we do not.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to have you here because you work on some incredibly interesting compounds, several of which are very controversial, and all of which are impacting health and society in a major way right now, especially in the United States. The most notable of those is kratom. I'm guessing some people have heard of kratom. I'm guessing some people perhaps have not. I'm pretty certain everyone has seen a kratom product because they are everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's often in the fine print. So could you just tell us what kratom is, where it's found in nature and in the United States, and some of its properties that people take it in order to achieve certain effects, and maybe some of its lesser known properties? So that's a lot of questions. So maybe just a general description of kratom, where it's found, and what it does.
Let's just start from the beginning and make it easy. It's a tree that's called Mitragynna speciosa by its botanical name. It's called kratom in Southeast Asia, which is where it's native to. It's actually native to where peninsular Malaysia and Thailand connect. So at the border of those two countries is thought to be ground zero for where this tree species came from. And in that region, it's very rural. It's lots of farmers and lots of outdoor laborers, and those outdoor laborers chew the leaves in Thailand, or they make a tea, more technically what we call a decoction, because they boil the leaves for hours. But they'll harvest fresh leaves and boil those leaves and then drink that, just like we would drink a coffee drink in the morning, to give them energy, to give them sort of sustainability throughout the day, to tolerate that heat, humidity, and very harsh tropical environment. And it gives them the stamina to make it through the day. And that's really what the traditional use has always been, more or less for energy and to get through that day. But it also has been used to treat pain. It's been used to treat, of all things, erectile dysfunction. It's been said to be nature's sort of Viagra. It's used for mood elevation primarily. And so these individuals will utilize it, like I said, throughout the day. It's a Muslim population in that area, so there's no alcohol really and no consumption of alcohol. And this is sort of a socially lubricating product. And so in the evenings, on Friday, Saturday evenings, the men would generally gather and then increase their consumption of the tea, just socially, and they could get them into a more sedative-like effect. And so there's always this sort of paradoxical description of kratom, or as we say in the United States, kratom, where you get this stimulant effect at lower doses or smaller amounts, and you get this more euphoric or sedative-like, opioid-like effect, if you will, at higher doses. And so they tend to use that traditionally. So they'll take the benefits of it, just like we would use coffee, I think, to sort of get us moving in the mornings. That's what they sort of use in those regions, and they move into, in the weekend evenings, they'll use it as more of a social beverage. And so that's where that's been. We got interested in it from the standpoint that there were also reports that this could be utilized when they ran out of heroin or raw opium, so that they wouldn't go into withdrawals. And so essentially they're already using it. They would increase the consumption when they ran out of heroin or opium, and that would stave off withdrawals for them. And that became really interesting to me as an opioid researcher, a pain researcher. Could this be something that has potential and obviously would have potential in helping with the opioid crisis that we're in? And that's kind of what drove us into starting to look at this.
I'd like to take a quick break and acknowledge one of our sponsors, David. David makes a protein bar unlike any other. It has 28 grams of protein, only 150 calories, and 0 grams of sugar. That's right.
Want to know how much your property could owe? Well, now you can find out with ADMA's Revenue Calculator.
When we see a kratom product in the United States, and I realize there are a variety of those, but let's just take, for example, I'm aware of a product that's very popular nowadays. It's a small blue bottle. It includes kava and kratom as its primary ingredients. I have zero financial relationship to this company. I actually had the opportunity to be an early investor, turned it down.
Don't do it, Andrew.
When somebody takes a bottle of that, when they drink a bottle of that.
I know that's right.
How concentrated and how much kratom are they getting compared to, say, the typical adult user in Malaysia who drinks, I don't know, what a mug of this concoction? Are they comparable? Are they even the same compound? Can we think about them the same way? Because this is very much, in my mind, like comparing smoked cannabis. Let's just say there is no typical variety, but compared to a highly concentrated THC tincture, for instance.
Yes.
I mean, the same chemical structure, but at some point the pharmacokinetics changes and you're basically looking at different brain circuits, different bodily organs engaged. It's like kind of different experience altogether.
Correct. And I think it's an important distinction to make at the outset of this is that, what I described as the traditional use is freshly picked leaves that day. They're either chewing them directly when they pull it off the tree or they're brewing this decoction right away. In the United States and in the Western world, it's a very different product from day one because it's a dried leaf material that's been exposed to the air, the sun, whatever environmental factors are there, plus shipping it all the way across the world from Indonesia, which is the primary country where most of this is grown. The last I heard a year ago was there's about 250,000 kratom farmers in Indonesia that are producing and exporting raw materials around the globe, but primarily to the United States. So that leaf material comes in, and then leaf material has been ground and put into capsules, put into various products, even just powdered product, where people will use tablespoons of powder and a couple grams of powder in their warm water or however they like to do. So it's an interesting product because that's as close to the traditional use that you can get in the Western world, right? Because you're still using leaf, you're ingesting it, or you're making a tea from it. Water is the worst, least efficient extractor of chemicals out of a plant material. And even if we don't make a tea out of it, if we just take the leaf material internally, our body has to work incredibly hard to pull those active ingredients out of the plant material. So it's an active process for us as humans or as animals, if we want to talk about the animal research too, and where we've learned most all of this from, that our body has to work hard to get that into our system. Now, you take that leaf material and then you do something like you mentioned, put it into a tonic, or you put it into a concentrate form or an extract. And now the compounds have been already pulled out of the leaf material by the solvent or the liquid that's being utilized, whether it's ethanol or it's oil or some other type of vehicle. I think in the product you mentioned it's pineapple juice, which again is not as efficient as something like oil or a solvent would be. But you start to pull these compounds into that liquid instead of our body having to pull it out of the leaf. It's already out of the leaf. Now we can ingest that, and those compounds are absorbed much faster into our body, into our system, and it totally changes the dynamics of what our body is exposed to from that sort of more traditional based product. And this is also where we feel that things have become problematic. And so if we go back to Paracelsus, hundreds of years ago, talking about the poison is in the dose, where we've seen somewhat non-problematic use, I would say. The majority of non-problematic use is with that leaf material, more of that closer to traditional use. But as you start to make these concentrates and extracts and now isolates, which are even a whole nother discussion because they're no longer even kratom products, you start to move ever so far across that spectrum. And I like to equate it to the alcohol world, where we talk about seltzers or light beers being more comparable in an alcohol beverage to that traditional use of kratom, whereas we get to things like almost pure alcohol, Everclear, 190 proof, 95% alcohol. Now you're talking about these isolate products, and we have products in the alcohol industry through that whole span. But we've classified all of them. We don't call them alcohol in general. We'll define them.
Beer, wine,
beer, wine, craft
cider.
beer. Yeah. And into spirits, and then into very fortified beverages. And so we don't have that delineation in the kratom space. And so all kratom products get dumped into a single bucket. And so whether or not it's a benign product or something that's highly, highly concentrated, and I shouldn't say benign, but something that is much more close to that traditional use, that you're not going to have a risk of getting a great exposure when you take some of it, versus a shot that might be 15 milliliters and it tells you on the bottle it's 9 servings, but nobody reads that part and just downs the entire bottle.
Is that what we're talking about when we talk about this little blue
So
bottle?
no, the little blue bottle is more similar in terms of what is dosed in there to a traditional exposure of a beverage.
One bottle.
One bottle.
One bottle. I say one bottle, and forgive me for interrupting, because about a year and a half ago, I ran into a friend, and his assistant, she came running out, and knowing what I do, she said, "Hey, do you know about this like little blue bottle product?" And I said, "Yeah, I've seen it, not tried it." And why? What do you think? And she said, "Well, I liked it because I drank one, but now I'm drinking 6 a day, and I can't seem to whittle it back. Like when I went to 3, I did not feel well. Headaches, kind of feel anxiety, not well." It was basically how she described it. And I said, "Well, sounds like either addictive or habit forming." And I don't know where she's at with that, but this seems very common. People start with one, not unlike nicotine pouches. Start with 3 milligrams, and they're up to 6 milligrams, and then pretty soon it's a tin a day or a canister a day. So one bottle of that of kratom kava is comparable to the plant use.
I think if I remember right, a bottle is 2 servings. So we've tested almost every single product in the marketplace, and we've analyzed it for the content of alkaloids to see what's there and what they consider a serving. But if we only look at a serving, they're pretty much all equivalent. Mm-hmm. Again, it's what's in that bottle, right? Is it 1 serving, 2 servings, 9 servings, 15 servings in a single bottle? So most people aren't going to look at it from the standpoint of, hey, I've got this bottle here, which is actually smaller than the blue bottle, but it's 10 times more servings, right? And so if you're used to consuming that blue bottle all at once, which is 2 servings, I think, then if you pick up one of those bottles that's 15 servings and you consume the whole thing at once, you're getting a much greater exposure immediately, and it's in a much easier vehicle for our body to welcome those compounds in, if you will. So it becomes a very, very slippery slope, in my opinion, with these different products that are out there in the marketplace. And so if someone is not paying attention to what the actual serving is supposed to be, then this is where problems become. And the other thing I would add to that is that a lot of times, and I've seen this, I've stopped in So, of all places, I stopped at a Murphy USA gas station, Walmart's gas station, and they had Kratom energy shots right next to the 5-hour energy shots. And so if you were in a hurry and you weren't even paying attention, you might accidentally grab something that you thought was a 5-hour energy shot, right? And suddenly, you normally take 2 of those, and I do it right back, and throw them right back. And so if you get these, and generally what we worry about is kids getting these, right? And getting these and then taking a shot, a whole bottle, which may be multiple servings, and they don't feel anything right away. And somebody told them, you're going to get high from this. You can't believe it, but you'll get high from this thing you can buy in the gas station. And then they don't feel anything. And then suddenly they have another one.
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want? With Wix, you can.
Right. And then all of it gets absorbed and hits them harder almost all at once. You can think of it like if you sat down and you drank a light beer and you drank that 12-ounce beer in a short period of time, just you could really drink it fast. You're not going to get very much alcohol exposure because there's only 3.5% in that 12 ounces. But if you sit down and you do 3 shots of tequila in a row in that same time frame, your body is getting exposed to significantly more alcohol in that time frame. And that's what our concerns are around some of these products. And so when you look at the specific serving, they dial it in to say, yep, this is what is comparable to a traditional full glass of tea. But they're very, very concentrated. And now, as I mentioned, moving outside of this space into semi-synthetics and products that are no longer kratom products are no longer traceable back to the plant material. They're actually semi-synthetically produced. That means they're chemically modified into other things that they're calling, in some cases, kratom product. Again, this is that trash can. Or they're actually calling them kratom-derived products.
2 things that I'm taking from what you've said thus far is that anyone considering kratom products of any kind needs to carefully consider serving size. And it's interesting that those small bottles, and frankly, the packaging of most things is pretty small. Yeah. And I don't think it's just my age. You need a compound microscope to read some of the print. Like literally fine print has become so fine that I think it's below the threshold of a Air Force fighter pilot's high acuity vision.
The 2015.
So in all seriousness, you need to look at the serving size and know how many servings are in there.
Absolutely.
So check serving size. And the other thing is to look for kratom derived or kratom extracted versus actual kratom plant product.
Right.
Because while we're not recommending usage here, there are a number of people using these products. There are a number of people that are going to use these products. We just have to be honest about that. And I think it's very important to understand how to navigate this space because, as you've pointed out, it's not one thing. It's just not. And maybe just for the moment, let's step back in light of that. And let me just ask, you said earlier that when people use the plant at lower dosages, it's a bit of a stimulant.
Right.
It might even have some aphrodisiac qualities to it, which suggests to me, I'm not a medicinal chemist as you are, but suggests that there might be some dopaminergic, maybe some cholinergic, maybe some vasodilation activity given the aphrodisiac part, et cetera. Okay. But then at higher doses, it starts to become more of a sedative.
Yeah.
When people take kratom derivatives or these more manufactured or processed kratom products in the United States, the small blue bottle, let's say 1 or 2 servings, or the ones that are in the energy shot, let's say they take 1 or 2 servings, which would be basically a quarter of a sip of one of those little thimble-sized things. Are they seeking the stimulant aphrodisiac effect? Or do you think that do we have any data, rather, as to whether or not users in the U.S. are really going for that kind of sedative numbing out effect? Because those are 2 very different things.
Very, very different. And I don't think we have good, strong, definitive data. So I will say that with my colleague, Dr. Kirsten Smith at Johns Hopkins, and others on our team, we've done pretty extensive surveying of users. These users, volunteer themselves into the studies. So I think we have to look at that from a standpoint of, we're not just putting out random people on the street and asking them questions. These are people that choose to answer. But what we found in the largest study that we've done to date is most users are using it in a very responsible and directed way, where they're not using it to get this high or euphoria or sedative feel.
Really?
Really.
Okay, could you repeat that? You said it very clearly, but I think the world needs to hear this.
The estimated number of users right now, we don't really have a good thumb on this, all right? So the most recent literature report was around 2.5 million users. But if you look at sales of products and you talk to the manufacturers, the estimates are well over 20 million users in the United States. And if you look at the availability of product, it's got to be closer to those numbers. So
on a daily basis?
On a daily basis.
Daily basis. So this isn't, 2 to 20 million people per year ingest a Kratom product. This is 20 million people a day.
This is what is the estimate right now.
Wow.
Based on the amount of material that's been imported, or if you will, exported to the U.S. and then manufactured. And so in 2019, when we actually had solid data, it is 1,950 metric tons per month coming in.
Do you think, and there are many people in the U.S. that are ingesting Kratom products, like them for the effect it produces, and are not aware that they're actually taking Kratom?
It's a very interesting question. So I work with a whole plethora of different people, right? So from emergency room physicians to medical toxicologists to basic scientists like myself and everything in between. And if people have heard of Kratom, they know what it is. And if they've heard of it and they are experienced in trying things, they've probably tried it. And then there's a whole group of people that have no idea what it is, never heard of it, just completely something that they drive by, they see it, like you said, you see it everywhere, but you don't have any idea what it is. So I think most people that are ingesting it or utilizing it know that they're utilizing it. I think they know they're specifically going after it. But again, what I'll say is what we did, it was an ecological momentary assessment. And so this is an EMA study where you're actually monitoring people with smartphone apps, and every single dose they're taking, they're reporting what they're feeling, they're reporting why they're taking it, when they're taking it, right? And the majority of those people that were involved in those studies were using it in a appropriate sort of not to get high way.
What are they using it for?
Mostly for energy, mood elevation, and pain treatment. So people like to use it as an alternative, particularly to opioids. So what we were surprised at, we thought we would see a lot of people using it to get off of opioids, right? Because that's sort of the general theme that it's had. Indeed, people are doing that. And I get emails almost weekly of people writing to me saying that this got them off the couch. They getting their families back, they're getting their lives back because this really helped give them that energy that they didn't have when they had opioids.
Really? Okay, we'll definitely double click on that in a few minutes.
Yeah. And so that's an interesting group of people.
He acts like he's surprised.
But I'm not sure that that's the largest group that are out there. It's really these mood elevations. You touched on a little bit too with the exercise. People are using this as a pre-workout stimulant to give you more endurance. Very similar to that traditional use, right? These people in the outdoor hot environment being able to work better, harder, faster, and people are using it as a post-workout pain treatment, right? To help kind of soothe them through all that lactic acid buildup and that pain feeling. So there's a variety of groups or reported groups of users. But the biggest one is really that mood elevation, that sort of kind of energy boosts, just overall general good feeling, not a high feeling. And we specifically ask for those questions, are you using this to get high? And yeah, there's a population of people that are purely out there to say, this is my thing, this is what I use it for, I get high. I know people that on Friday nights, they're like, this is my Friday night jam, and this is what I do, and it makes me feel, euphoric and relaxed, and
What the hell?
and that's it. And so I think there's just
On Friday night jam.
various user populations, and we can't even get to a granular point in that to say, are these populations that are trying to get high, are they using those really concentrated products? More than likely, that would be the assumption. And are the people that are using it more on a daily basis, are they doing it with more of the powdered leaf material and those types of products? And that's generally what we've seen. And interestingly enough, I mean, we looked at the time of day. When are people using these products, right? They wake up and within the first half hour, they have it.
Would you say they have it or they need it?
It could be they need it. It absolutely causes a physical dependence.
You said it absolutely causes a physical dependence. Do you mean it absolutely causes a physical dependence at every dose and every desired effect?
Scribe is how 4 million people turn processes into step-by-step guides. The hardest part of
I would say not. So if you take it one time, you're not going to be physically dependent on it. But if you're utilizing it over a course of time, and I can't tell you what that time frame is because we don't have any
That's
chronic
true.
studies in humans.
Alicia.
We don't have it. And sadly, we don't even have chronic studies in animals. Although animals aren't going to be able to tell us, I need this, right? So the physical dependence feeling that most people will report is very similar to that. And I get caught making this comparison many times because people that are using leaf material, if they get up in the morning and they want to go get their leaf material, they're not drinking coffee, they're drinking kratom, and they have a headache or they feel miserable if they don't get that into them. Very similar to what we would get with a caffeine withdrawal or physical dependence on caffeine. Now, I can't speak to how much intense that gets as you start to ramp up into those various products because we don't have good reports around those. But I can tell you that anecdotally, people have said they get more restless leg syndrome, they get more severe type physical dependence signs, which restless leg is much more related to an opioid withdrawal type issue than it is to a coffee withdrawal issue. So there's not only is there a spectrum of physical dependence symptoms, you have this spectrum of products and which ones are causing which we don't have a handle on yet.
I'm gathering at this point that there are basically three paths of kratom usage in the United States. One group of people is using kratom products to achieve an energetic lift, not dissimilar from the lift they're seeking with caffeine or an energy drink.
Right.
Sounds like they're using kratom products pretty regularly to achieve that. And if they don't use their kratom product, they feel a little bit more lethargic, maybe a little bit of minor headache, not as energized and clear as they would otherwise.
That's me.
Sounds a lot like caffeine to me.
Right.
Yep.
With one caveat, I should add. When somebody consumes a lot of caffeine, at some point the effect starts to drop off because they gain a tolerance. The effect of caffeine doesn't shift from a stimulant to a more opioid-like effect the more you take. It tends to just make you less sensitive to caffeine over time. It's more of a inverted U-shaped function as opposed to two different curves, right?
Right, but you will become, you'll get jittery with caffeine, and it actually causes anxiety when you get into higher amounts of it. And so, yeah, I mean, point well taken. It's just a matter of where you are in that sort of U-shaped curve, right? You got to get over that sort of jittery anxiety point before it really starts to.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it.
No.
Meet Base 44.
it doesn't bother you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was a
Sorry.
young assistant professor, they would see me come in the restaurant with our guests, and they would immediately put a pot of coffee on because they knew I was going to sit there until 9, 10 o'clock at night and drink coffee the whole time, right? And I go to bed, no problem.
Yeah, I was
I can't
same
do
way.
that today.
Recently on a podcast I was a guest on, I shared that I drink, and I do not suggest people do this, but I legitimately drink somewhere between 600 and probably 900 milligrams of caffeine per day.
Wow.
And people say, well, that's impossible, but I'll drink 5 zero sugar cold brew yerba mates, each one of those 120 milligrams, plus a strong coffee,
I've been
probably
wanting to
another
try
half
yerba
cup.
mate.
I limit it to the early part of the day or up to about 2 p.m., but no problem. But most people who get their commercial vendor coffee, let's say venti coffee, take that away from them for 2 days, and they will be complaining of headache and maybe even nausea because there's so much caffeine in those. Okay, so we got this first case, caffeine-like usage. Let's just bin that. Second path of kratom usage seems to be people who use fairly high doses or concentrates to achieve an opioid-like effect. A mild sedative effect, euphoric effect. This sounds a lot like opioid use or higher dosage alcohol use, for instance.
Right.
And then we've got this third category that you mentioned that are using kratom to get off opiates or to stay away from opiates.
Yeah.
And for whom you told us kratom is a real benefit for them because otherwise they would be strongly addicted to opiates. And I should just mention that this third category of people are the ones that I heard from when I mentioned on X, formerly known as Twitter. I said something kind of negative about kratom. I just put out a then tweet, now post, which alluded to the darker sides of kratom.
Right.
And I got attacked actually by this community that said, hey, were it not for kratom, we'd see a lot more opioid dependence. We'd see a lot more fatalities. And actually, I learned about you in large part through the dialogue that emerged from that response. And so hopefully what listeners
attack him,
of
though.
this podcast are trying to hear is that
not at all.
this molecule is complicated, super interesting, and that the usage patterns are complicated and varied and very interesting. So we can't just say kratom bad, kratom good.
Right.
We really have to explore how it's delivered and what people are using it for.
And again, we can't just say kratom because that's just like just saying alcohol, right? So there's a variety of different forms of product that are out there and that are being utilized, and it could be that those are being utilized in very different ways. As I mentioned, we don't have good, strong data to suggest one way or the other, but you can assume and anecdotally say that it would make sense, right? So I think two things that will really kind of probably blow this open a little bit more. One is that kratom itself contains multiple compounds, multiple chemical compounds. So it's not just one thing.
It's an alkaloid.
It has at least 20 to 40 alkaloids in it.
Can you explain to people what an alkaloid is and some other examples of alkaloids they might be familiar with?
Sure. So alkaloid is a organic molecule that has at least a nitrogen in its structure. So it has to be nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen. It can or cannot have oxygen. But those are essentially the template for what we would define as an alkaloid. And then there's various classes of alkaloids. Many things that people are familiar with, dopamine, serotonin, these are alkaloids. But we could go further. We just talked about caffeine. Caffeine's an alkaloid. Cocaine's an alkaloid. Morphine's an alkaloid. So all of these molecules contain a nitrogen that is core to part of their activity, what we believe is essential for them to interact with the proteins in the body.
Can I ask a question about nitrogen and protein interactions,
Sure.
given this is
Sorry. I just totally stopped that. I was going to say, can you hear me?
Yeah, you gotta go get your kitty from school.
Yeah. But we're going to continue this we're supposed to continue on Thursday.
Yeah,
So we'll watch the rest of it on Thursday. It's pretty interesting though.
it is. We'll probably have to do like 3 parts. I
Yeah.
don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens Thursday.
Play it by ear. But thanks everybody for coming.
Yep. Bye, everybody.